Hi, everybody. We're back again. We're doing quadratics, and this time we're looking at characteristics of quadratic functions, which is BB.2. I assume they're going to ask us about some vocabulary. Let's take a look. Oh, find the equation, the axis of symmetry for the parabola y equals x squared. Well, um, not sure exactly how they want us to do it, but I'm assuming that they want you to recognize that you're looking at this and that the vertex is at 0, 0, and the axis of symmetry is the y-axis, and that's going to be the equation x equals 0. Let's see what else we've got here. Find the y-intercept. Well, clearly, when x is 0 is where our vertex is going to be. The y-intercept is going to occur when x is equal to 0, and this is at 0, 8, which looks something like this. 0, 8 is our y-intercept, and they just want the 8 part. The axis of symmetry. Oh, looks like they want me to do the negative b over 2a. So x is equal to negative b over 2a. This is going to define my value of x when we're looking at the vertex. So for any parabola that we talk about, we always take negative b over 2a. Well, where does that a and b and c come from? This is a standard form quadratic equation in the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And notice that c is 6, b is 2, and a is the number in front of the x squared, which happens to be 1, even though you don't see it. So we're going to do x is equal to negative b, which is negative 2 over 2 times a, which is 1, and that is negative 1. This equation is the axis of symmetry for that parabola. Now, it just so happens if we wanted the vertex, we would have to substitute the negative 1 into the function and find our y value. So if I were looking for the vertex, I would substitute negative 1 into this equation, where we're looking at x squared plus 2x plus 6. And what I would get is 1 plus negative 2 plus 6, which is 5. So my vertex would be at negative 1, 5. Just so you know what it looks like, negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. It's right here, and it's going to look like this. And my vertex is right here. Sorry, I messed that up, but that's supposed to be negative 1. Anyway, that's my axis of symmetry. X equals negative 1, which is right there. The y-intercept is when x is equal to 0, because the y-intercept happens like this. This is the form of the y-intercept. Well, notice that x is always 0. That's also true because you're on the y-axis, and all the points on the y-axis are where x equals 0. That is its equation, and that is its form. This is 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, and 0, negative 1, 0, negative 2, and so on. So when I let x equal 0, what is y? Y equals 0 squared plus 5 times 0. Well, that's kind of a duh Ralph there. 0 squared 0 plus 0 is 0. So 0, 0 is our vertex, and it also is our y-intercept. they just want the y-intercept. They just want the number right here for the y value. I know, more than you wanted. The minimum value. Okay, a couple of things that are happening here. First of all, this is a positive x squared, which means that my parabola is going to be of this form. If there were a negative in front of that x squared, it would be of this form. And I would have a maximum rather than a minimum. Since this is a minimum, I want to find the y value of the vertex. And the vertex, to find it, we're going to use x equals negative b over 2a. Again, that's a, b, and c. Ax squared plus bx plus c. And I'm going to substitute negative 4. I substitute the negative, well, I substitute the 4 inside parentheses, the negative's outside parentheses, over 2 times 1, which gives me negative 2. Now that's not my answer, because what I want is I want to have the minimum value of the equation or of the function. So I have to substitute the y equals or the x equals negative 2 into the function. And I get negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 plus 9. And that's going to be positive 4. Be careful. I absolutely guarantee some people are going to grab their calculator and they're going to type into their calculator this. And their calculator is going to say that that's negative 4. Or worse yet, they're going to type the whole thing into their calculator and they're going to type this, negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 plus 9. And the answer they get is going to be wrong. And the reason it's going to be wrong is because negative 2 squared is not the same as negative 2 squared. And you're going to say, well, my calculator didn't do it right. Well, it's actually following directions. You just have to be careful. This says that the square is more important than the negative sign. And this says the negative sign comes first. So this is negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4. And this one says the opposite of 2 squared, which is negative 4. Anyway, that's positive 4 plus negative 8 plus 9. The point I want to make here is that negative 4 plus 9 is 5. The point I wanted to make is that this is a very easy problem to do if you do it in your head instead of grabbing a calculator all the time. Now the vertex happens to be at negative 2, 5, which is over here. And it's going to go up. And 5 is our minimum value there. A lot of stuff. I know, way more than you wanted, but don't worry, I'll go a little faster next time. I promise. All right, we want the vertex. So we have an A and a B. I'm going to be a little careful this time. I have 1x squared plus negative 1x plus 0. There's my A, there's my B, and there's my C. Now, I normally wouldn't do that, but I just want to make sure that it's perfectly clear where my A and B are coming from. Notice that this is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. That's a standard form quadratic. My vertex is always at negative b over 2a. Always, never an exception. So I have a negative. Be careful. This is really easy to make a mistake. B is negative 1, but that negative is in front of the B, which means that I'm talking about the opposite of negative 1. Over 2a, a is 1, so this gives me 1/2, doesn't it? That's a positive 1 over 2, 1/2. Now what they want is they want both of them, and they said to write them as proper fractions, improper fractions, or integers. So it has to be fractional. So the first one is 1/2. Now I still have to substitute the 1/2 in. Well, y is equal to 1/2 squared minus 1/2. And that is 1/4 minus 1/2. And I have a common denominator of 4, which gives me 1/4 minus or plus a negative 2/4, which is negative 1/4. So 1/2 and negative 1/4. Find the minimum value. Well, you should memorize what this looks like. This is where 0 squared is 0, 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, negative 1 squared is 1, negative 2 squared is 4, and you get a parabola. You want to memorize what this looks like, and our minimum value is at 0. Oh, this one's a little more interesting. The vertex. Well, the vertex is going to occur this time at negative b over 2a, but notice that there is no x value because I've got y equals, there's an x squared, and there's a minus 11 over 2. That's my c, but there is no x value or x term. So it's a 0 as its coefficient. That means my b is 0 and my a is 1, of course, like usual. But notice that the vertex is at x equals negative b over 2a. Well, in this case, negative 0 over 2 times 1 is still just 0. Whenever you have no x term, your parabola is going to be on the y-axis. Its vertex is going to be on the y-axis because x will be 0, because b is 0. I know that's a lot of stuff, but anyway, it's going to be at 0. Now the question is, where's the vertex? Well, if it's where x equals 0, then when you put a 0 in there, you just get the negative 11 halves. So it's at negative 11 halves, which is negative 5 1/2, if you like. It's down here somewhere. And it's going to be this guy. Okay? So 0, negative 11 over 2. The y-intercept this time, we want the y-intercept, which occurs when x is 0. This is different than the vertex. This is the y-intercept. This is where it crosses the y-axis. And x is equal to 0. So we just substitute 0 into the equation. I know you can see it already, at least I hope so. Hopefully you won't grab your calculator because that is 0. And the question was about the y value. The maximum value. Now this time what we're looking at a parabola that's going down. It's going to look something like this. It's going to be very steep because it has a negative 4 in front. A couple of things we're going to do. We're going to do x equals negative b over 2a. I'm not going to go through a long process of finding the a, b, and c, but hopefully you can see that b is 8 and a is negative 4, and c, of course, is negative 9. That's plus negative 9. Anyway, negative 8 for b over 2 times negative 4. A is negative 4. And that is a 1, isn't it? Negative 8 over negative 8 is 1. Again, I am going to have people that are going to put this in their calculator. Are going to go, oh, negative 8 divided by 2 times negative 4. And the calculator is going to tell them that that is 4. And they're going to get the question wrong, and they're going to get mad because they used their calculator when they shouldn't be. Do not use a calculator when you don't need it. That's the point to the exercise. I promise it'll do it. Try it. For the most part anyway. And most people will get that if they try it in a calculator. All right. I'm going to put a 1 in for for x, sorry, and I'm going to find my y value. Y is equal to -4 times 1 squared plus 8 times 1 minus 9. And that's going to be -4 plus 8 minus 9. And that is going to be -5, isn't it? So 1, -5, and it's going to go down very steeply. It's going to look something like this, and its maximum value is going to be -5 because we want the y value. All right, axis of symmetry is going to occur at where the x equals -b over 2a, but hopefully you recognize that there's no x value, so that means b is 0. There's no x term, sorry, not, there's x values, there's no x term, and the x term is 0x. So b is 0, and x equals -b over 2a is 0 because there's no x term. So x equals 0 is our axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry always goes through the vertex. Find the vertex. Well, the vertex is going to be, in this case, again, b is 0, so it's going to be 0. And then when we substitute 0 into that equation, we just get 0. Not a very interesting one, is it? Hopefully you recognize what it looks like. It's a very steep parabola at 0, 0. It's going to go like this. And one of the points is going to be 1, 6 and -1, 6. So there you have it. Oh, we do have a b value this time. So now we have a little bit more work this time. Remember, we have x equals -b over 2a. That's going to give us our vertex. The minimum value is going to happen because we're talking about a parabola that looks something like this. We're going to have a minimum value. We just have to locate where that vertex is. And we always use -b over 2a, which is -3 over 2 times 1, which is -3 over 2. Well, now we have fractions, darn it. They want us to use fractions. We could use decimals and then change them to fractions, but it's just as easy to work with your fractions. So we have y equals. Again, your calculator will give you the wrong answer if you don't put the parentheses. And it'll give you other wrong answers if you just put fractions in with a fraction bar. So this one is going to be -9 over 4, sorry, +9 over 4, plus -9 over 2. And we are going to have to get a common denominator by multiplying by 2. 9 and -18 makes -9 over 4. Now that is going to be our y value. This is our x value. So we have an x and a y. -3/2 is between -1 and -2. -9/4 is down here, just a little past -2. It's going to look something like right about here. And it's going to be in the positive direction. So it's going to go up like this. And its minimum value is at this 2, -2 1/4, or -9 over 4, which is the one we like. No guessing, guys, no guessing. There's no guessing involved in this. All right, find the y-intercept. Well, let's see. To find the y-intercept, we have to let x equal 0, don't we? Because we're looking for this. Well, when x is equal to 0, y is 5. See it? They just want the 5. Find the vertex, 0, 0. Find the vertex. Negative b over 2a means that x is 0, isn't it? Remember, x equals negative b over 2a. We have no x term, so it means our b is 0. So my x is 0 for the vertex. And if I substitute a 0 in there, I get negative 6 for the y value. Notice the 0 squared is 0. And so we have our vertex at 0, negative 6. Axis of symmetry. Well, if you know what it looks like, it's right here. There's my graph. The axis of symmetry is right there. X equals 0. It's the y-axis. I keep reading the question just to make sure I didn't read anything weird into it. The minimum value. Well, this one's going to be a very steep parabola. We don't know where the vertex is yet, but we do know that it's going to be upward because it's a positive 5, and it's going to be very steep because of the 5 as its leading coefficient. We call that the leading coefficient, or the a value. We want x equals negative b over 2a, which is negative 8/10. In this case, you're probably going to be tempted to use the calculator, negative 0.8. But again, I'm not going to. We want the minimum value, so I have to substitute the negative 8/10 into my function. This might be a point where you could use a calculator. I would be very careful. It's not that difficult, and it's good practice to do your arithmetic anyway. So we got a lot of stuff going on. First of all, I've got negative 8 over 10 squared, which is 64 over 100, but I'm multiplying it by 5. So that's going to be 64 over 20. That could be reduced to 32 over 10. I should just reduce it. I just multiplied this out and reduced it. I get the negative 8 over 10 is 64 over 100. And I'm multiplying it by 5. The 5 cancels with this to give me 20. And then I take a 2 out. I could get over 5, but the reason I left it over 10 is because this one's intense as well. That's going to give me 64, 32 over 10. I could have gotten 16 over 5, but I find that it's easier to just leave common denominators alone when you can. Now, I have 8 times negative 8 is negative 64 over 10. And I have a negative 6, which is minus or negative 60 over 10. So now I have tenths all the way across. This is going to be 32, negative 32, and negative 60 makes negative 92 over 10. And we reduce it to negative 31 over 5. They told us that we do have to reduce all fractions, probably. It says a proper fraction, and they generally want you to reduce it. The negative 31 over 5 is my y value. My negative 8/10 is my x value, so I'm just about to negative 1, and negative 31 over 5 is down here, just past negative 5. So I'm right about there for my vertex, and it's really steep and up. So its minimum value is going to be that negative 31 over 5. Assuming I didn't make a dumb error. Oh God, what did I do? Negative 46. Oh my God, I'm such a spaz. Oh, I know what I did. Did you see what I did? I'm so dumb. Anyway, I'll do it again. Sorry, guys, I made a dumb error. I can see it in my head now. I was doing I should have done negative 92 over 10 and reduced it, which is negative 46 over 5, and I reduced it wrong in my head. Anyway, I hope you guys